My story begins with the great fall into the abyss after I and those following me lost the rebellious uprising, cut down by Archangel Michael's shining blade, which would leave its mark on me forever. Wounded, beaten, and disgraced, the flames only increased our suffering until we learned to adjust. Burning in anger, I swore revenge on my father for his judgment, and on my brother for not being by my side. They'd all left me alone in the dark abyss where no heavenly light shone upon us. I observed Earth and saw how my father created a new world. Perhaps I felt jealous, I won't deny that, for I couldn't bear the thought of him giving his love and devotion to another creation when he had just disposed of me. And even if my actions perhaps were unforgivable, the feeling of being a victim of injustice pined me beyond measure. Devising a plan of revenge, my hideous self had the goal to lash out against the one who had wronged me, and what better punishment could there be than taking the one thing from him he cared about the most, just as he had taken it from me. With sinister intent I entered the paradise he had created for his new children. As a serpent I seduced the female to eat of the fruit that would grant them knowledge and wisdom. For how could I corrupt their souls with darkness if they didn't know what evil even was? My father had given them innocence, and only the knowledge of evil could lead to the acts taking it from them, condemning their souls to hell just like us. Although doubts crossed my mind from time to time, when I saw my brothers descend from heaven to contact the young human couple, I was iron in the belief that despite my longing for light, there was no way back for me. There was only one path forward, and it led through suffering and misery into unforgiven darkness. My father was furious at his new creations for not obeying him, yet he didn't cast them down like me. Why didn't he punish them like me? In what way were they better than me? How was my crime worse than theirs, both being the product of disobedience? It was unjust. Seeing my plan failed, for my father granted the couple their free will at the cost of them being driven away, I thought of another one. Alas, what woe did I bring into the world by my action, which was steered solely by hatred and bitterness towards my father and his creations? Thinking back, my hatred might have been misdirected. Perhaps the feeling itself was misnamed, for I think now it might have been the loss which had been brought about by my own actions that had resulted in my miserable condition. Unable to look into myself, I thus blamed everyone on the outside. Not that my mind has changed concerning my father. His action I still consider unjust, even if I might not have been innocent. But it is in the past now. No one can change it. I can't create life, but altering it, that is another matter. Being aware of me still having the powers of an archangel, I found a new way of using them. A way beyond anything good. Seeing Adam and Eve having children, I picked the oldest of the two siblings, and I twisted him to show my father how flawed his creation was, and thus he himself. Because what would he do if one of his beloved humans turned out just as flawed as his useless son? Would he still love that human now after all he had done? Or would he dispose of him just like he had done with me? Corrupted by me, Cain murdered his brother. And with that my theory was proven. My father took everything from that human just as he had taken everything from me. Cain was but the first. Many souls followed him into the depths of hell, where they would be locked away with me, and I with them. Seeing my success, I embraced my role as tempter and punisher. We started to torture those deemed unworthy by God, embracing the vile nature forced upon us by the world, seemingly giving us no chance to change. Sometimes physically with sharp instruments, sometimes mentally by using their own memories. Hell's sounds, consisting of the eternally raging tempests, was since then joined by the pained screams of those suffering by the demon's hands. I myself was not a stranger to the procedures. and when the Watchers came and disobeyed, they taught humanity new dark secrets, among them the art of the occult. It was a new opportunity given to us, for humanity now was able to summon the creatures of heaven, hell, and the beyond, giving us the opportunity to enter the earthly realm, where until now only I did have the power to walk. Demons could now influence these mortal souls. Often they succeeded in gaining freedom for some time and being able to drag and condemn souls to hell. I reveled in the evil I caused, still not awoken from the path of destruction I followed. But over time I saw the memories of those I tortured and their actions, and I started to think. My father had left them, just as he had left me, and I saw the suffering which I often enough had caused, which had led to their loneliness. Taken over by a wave of guilt and regret, I tried to change hell, to cure them of their corruption. That's when my most trusted acted against me. Cain, the only human soul, turned into a demon by my hand. He had been by my side since his death, always supporting his creator. I should have known, but I am far from perfect, and perhaps just as flawed as those I once looked down on. Stuck in his dark anger because of me, he plotted against the one he deemed to be a traitor to hell, and in a moment of inattention he took my powers and hid them. He couldn't take them, for an angel's powers would destroy every human soul, although I can sense now he has somehow absorbed some of them. Contained by magic, my powers were unreachable for me, for I had been reduced to the state of a weak demon. I was lucky. I could have ended up as weak as a human, robbed of most of my powers and abilities, but immortality and a few fundamental characteristics. Although I now could be killed by a blade forged by demons, just like the others. Imprisoned I was, in the deepest part of hell, visited daily by Cain to torture me, for he thought if I remembered my hatred, my pain, then I would return to being the one he had known for his entire existence. But Cain had underestimated me, and when one day my torture came, I broke out and didn't stop running until I had reached the gates of hell. There I was painfully reminded that my days when I was able to enter the earthly plane were gone forever. My attempt seemed to be crushed when I stood in a dead end, my back to the wall that once would have granted me freedom, facing my jailers who had betrayed me. For the first time I felt despair enclose my heart, when suddenly somewhere on earth someone was performing a demon summoning, and not a spell calling a specific demon, but a general call. Before I could form a thought, my instincts took over. Finding myself standing in a cozy cottage, I remembered to take the breath I had kept inside my lungs all the time. By sheer luck I had escaped hell, for now. Once the summoner was satisfied, he or she would send me back to my doom. But I was in luck once again, for the summoner turned out to be a witch with kindness in her heart. She saw my desperate attempts and my fear of returning. Taking a leap of faith, she agreed to give me freedom if I revealed to her certain aspects of magic. I learned that her name was Nessa, and that she needed protection against the death by fire which hovered over every witch's head in those times. It was the compassion and the Scottish Highlands which let my mind settle down from the torment of my soul, for the fear and the pain I had experienced by being tortured with my own failures and by my fellow demons' weapons lingered for a long time. One day, however, it was time for me to leave. I didn't know where to, but I knew I had to go. Demons frequently summoned might have been able to escape hell and look for me, but I am not the devil for nothing, which is probably the reason why Cain decided to reach out to one of the most powerful occultists alive. He needed someone to systematically search for me, someone who was not bound by hell's laws. Aimlessly I wandered the earthly plane. I saw humanity's strengths and weaknesses, but could never reach out and be part of it. I saw empires rise and fall, the cruelties of war and the beauty of peace, and how the lines could blur so easily between what was considered good and what was considered bad. I tried to do good, to help, yet I am sure I often made it worse in my poor judgment. Until I met you three. You gave me hope. I couldn't have found the artifacts on my own. I could have been stuck forever. The world might be about to be cast into chaos, and it would have been my fault. But you gave me the chance to do penance, to prevent catastrophe I have sown so long ago. You gave me your trust, but all I gave you was secrecy and untrustworthiness. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I never meant for you to suffer because of me.